So I'm studying this book May, and I found out that David Goggins have added some challenges throughout this chapter, and I feel like uh, I should record those challenges. What are the challenge? What are those challenges? I haven't seen any of the challenges, so like I thought it would be a good idea to showcase you guys. I don't know, don't go like don't think about my English. Like my English is really bad, I know. But my whole point is that I'm gonna doing no, I'm not. I'm gonna do the challenges that David. I'm gonna do the challenges that David Goggins has said in this book, and I think this book has 11 chapters, as you can see, and 11 chapter means maybe 11 videos, and I will combine all of those and make one. Also, sorry, I'm going to make a summary about this book. I don't know how or what or when, but I think pretty sure I will make. I don't know on which channel I'm gonna post or not, but I'm gonna post somewhere. Eh, that's all. I'm gonna lock my door first of all. Now, well, this is like very interesting even for me. I know David Goggins for a very long time. I do have pain. I do have like this is for the summary of the book. I do write my own summaries. I have completed two books before. I don't know this. You can see this is the summary of books that I have read. I have completed three books five by far, and also like the first summary of the book was it was really good. Look, I pointed out. I don't have. I don't have like I don't know how to explain, but I can. This is the like first summary of the book that I've read. So it dropped. I don't want this to happen. So yeah, I think it's been. You might get bored. Just don't get bored. If you are bored, then what? This I can't speak clearly, so I'm gonna use this technique called enunciation, and I don't know what it is. Like simply you have to put your pen in between your uh, teeth so that you make your tongue work more hard to speak clearly. Yeah, I think I don't know. I should finish this book. I have 30 minutes to finish this book. So yeah, let's go. I should have been a static. I should have been static. We found hell in a beautiful neighborhood. In 1981, William Swale offered the tasteful real estate in Buffalo, New York. Leafy and friendly, its safest street was dotted with dingy homes filled with modern citizens, doctors, attorneys, steel planet executive dentists, and professional football players lived there with their adoring wives and kids. 2.2 kids? The 2.2 kids? Cars were new, roads were possibly endless. We're talking about living, breathing American dream. He was a lord on Paradise Road. They, that's where we live in a two-story, four-bedroom white wooden home with a four-square platforming front porch that leads to the widest greenest lawn in Wilsonville. We had a vegetable garden out back and two car crafts stocked with 1960 Rolls Royce Silver Cloud or 1980 Mercedes 450 SLC, and in the driveway of parking a new 1981 black Corvette. Everyone on Paradise Road lived near one of the top food chain, and based on the appearances, most of the neighbor thought we were so called happy. While others, Goggins' families were the tip of the spear, but closer surface reflect it's much than they reveal. They would see us Most weekdays morning, gathered in the driveway at 7 a.m. My dad, David Goggins, wasn't tall, but he was handsome and built like a boxer. He wore tailored suits. His smiles warm and open. He opened every bit a successful businessman on his way to work. My mother Jackie was 17 years younger, slender and beautiful, and my brother and I were clean cut, well dressed in jeans and pastel eyesore shorts and strapped with black packs, just like the other kid. The white kid in our barton of affluent America, each driveway was a standing ground for the north and west before parents, and children rode up to work and school. Never, never saw what they wanted. Nobody broke the deep. Good thing. The food was the criminal had prostitution home from another organizer in the hood, and if the organizer was hell, that means I live with the devil himself. As soon as our neighbor shut the door or turned the corner, my father smiled moved into his skull. He bowed at us and went inside to sleep, and then the one up but button down. My brother Trinity and I had wished away, and it was our siblings to get us there. I was in first grade in 1981 and I was in school days for real. Not because the academics were hard, at least not yet, but because I couldn't stay awake. The teacher singing song voice was sharp words. Once she caught me dreaming on an unwelcome alarm clock that couldn't stop blaring. Children that are young, infinite sponges. They soak up language and ideas at rap speed to establish a fundamental foundation upon which most people build lifelong skills like reading and spelling with basic math. But I worked nights. I couldn't concentrate anything most morning except trying to stay awake. Recess and PE were a very different Minefield. On the playground, staying lucid was the easiest part. The hardest part was hiding. Couldn't let my shorts slip. Couldn't wear shorts. Bruises on wear red flag. I couldn't show because if I did, I would catch even more. Still on the playground in the classroom, I knew I was safe. For a little last, it was one place he couldn't reach me. At least not physically. My brother went through a similar dance in secret his first year in middle school. He had his own owns to fight, sleep to harvest because once that bell rang, real life began. The ride from Wilson to Master District is popular took up 1.5 an hour, but it may as well have been a worldwide for much of its buffalo. Master was a mostly black working class neighborhood in the inner city that was rough around the edges. Through in the early 1980s, it was not a completely. It was back then. It the bad therm still planned was still dominating, and Buffalo was the last great American steel town. Most of most men in the city, black, white, worked solid union jobs and earned a living which meant business in Master was good for my dad. It always had been. By the time he was 20 years old, he owned a Coca-Cola distribution concession and 4 delivery routes in the Buffalo area. That's good money for a kid, but he had bigger dreams and an eye on future. His future had four wheels and a disco funk soundtrack. When a local vehicle shut down, he leased the building and built one Buffalo fast roller skating rinks. Fast forward 10 years, and Skidlin had been relocated to a building on Fair Street that stretched nearly a full block in the heart of Manson district. You open a bar above the rink, which he named Vermilion Room. In the 1970s, that was the place to be in the East Purple Line, where he met my mother when she was just 9 and she was 36. It was her first time away from home. Jackie grew up in the Catholic Church. Ronnie was the son of the ministers and knew her language well enough to masquerade as a believer, which appealed to her, but let's keep it silly. She was just as drunk on his charm. I can pause my recording so Ronnie Senior was born in 1971. I was born in 1975. And by the time I was 6 years old, the roller disco craze was at its absolutely peak. Scotland rocket every night. I would usually get there around 5 p.m. My brother would consistently standing popping corn, grizzling orders, loading the cooler, each making pizza. I organized the skit by size and style. Each afternoon I extra on the studio spray myself with iron detergent with the rubber stoppers. That arson sting would call around my head and leave in my nostrils. My eyes looked permanently bloodshot. I was the only thing I could smell for hours, but those were the distractions I had to twisted and unnecessary because my dad, though who worked at the DJ booth, was always watching if any of the skits missing if his ass the doors open out polite they staggering flew into a simple device with size. Scotland, I think, is David Goggins. I feel like, I mean, there's nothing like to get or to catch. I don't know. At around 6 p.m., my mother called us to dinner in the back office. Dad only lived in a permanent state of denial, but hot material and strict material. It would make a big connection of this catching for any sort of noise, even not in that office. She would sit or two little partner on the floor to her legs called behind her and prepare food in her roast meat, but still can be and dinner rolls. While my dad did the work and made calls. The food was good, but even at 6 and 7 years old, I knew our family was bullshit. Fishing was complete was much fun we had, because we ate fast. There are no times in India we became extreme videos of the whole of one. Because of short time, I always had to learn places which are station prep. My dad would the sheriff, I on 16 with arrows triangle, his tongue like an ally thing or you will hear about unless you felt it past. The room didn't like much under the harsh overhead house lights, but once you dim them, the lights so battered during the red glance of the spinning mirror walls, conjuring a scary discreet fantasy. Weekend weeknights, hundreds of skaters piled through that door. Most of the time, they came in as a family, paying their $3 entrance fee and half-dollar skate fee before eating the floor. I rented out the stage and managed the entire season by myself. I carried the steep stool like a charge. Without it, the customer wouldn't even see me. The bigger size skates were don't be the way to but the small size were too. I would have to scale the sales, which will make the customer laugh. Mom was the one and only cashier. Secretly, every only car was charmed to and the two. Money was everything. He counted the people so the game calculations. Taking real time, so he had rough idea for that when he counted the register when it closed up. After he had paid our all be there, all money was his. The rest of us never understood for our sweat. In fact, my mother was never given any amount of her own. She had no background or credit card in her name. He controlled everything, and we all knew what would happen if a cashier came up short. None of the customer who came through the door knew any of this, of course. To them, Skitland was a family-owned and operated dream cloud. My dad spun the feeding line vinyl because of the discos and funk and the early rumbles of hip-hop. Bass, bass bounce off the red walls. Courtesy, courtesy of Buffalo's favorite song, Rick James, George Clinton, Funkadelic, Funkadelic, and the first track ever released by hip hop innovator Ron DMC. Some of the kids were speed skating. I like to go fast, but we had our own share of stick dancers, and that floor get funky. For the first hour or two, when stayed downstairs and watched the kids spin the oval, and they wouldn't even cheerily lick upstairs to make their own scene. And when enough of them make their moves, turn is Tronis, Tronis, Tronis slipped out of the DJ booth so he could join in. My dad was considered the unofficial mayor of the mansion, and he was a phony protest into the court. His customers were his marks. And what they didn't know was that no matter how many drinks he poured on the house and bros how he said, if awkward, they all were they all were all dollar signs to him. If he poured you a free drink, it was because he knew you would buy two or three more. Since while we had our share of all-night steaks and 24-hour steak marathon, the Scotland Dorothy will close at 10 p.m. This one mother, brother, and went to walk, fishing blooded was 6 plus 12. Air rising, click, lingering, cannabis heads out of the bathroom, scraping bacterial with coffee, cleaning the conscious kids and taking inventories of the room. We would slog into the office happily. Our mother would talk my brother away beneath the blanket and the sofa and almost to the ceiling. Mom was still on the clock. As soon as Stevens at the bar, Tony's head, or walking the door or hustling downstairs like a booze mule to face seas of the liquor from the basement. There was always some menial task to work home, and she didn't stop moving, while my father gave was from his corner of the path where he could trace the whole scene. In those days, the trains of Buffalo and one of my father's close friends, stable wherever in the town, parking hit the later on the side of our found his car was a billboard that led us to know that the super in the house. He wasn't the only celebrity that came through. Moses Simpson was one of the NFL's biggest stars because he and his Buffaloes, which teammates were regulars at the terrifying their gas and sister slaves. If you don't know the names, look them up. Maybe I had been older or my father had been a good man. I might have some pride in the being of a cultural moment like that. But Yankees aren't about that life. It's almost like no matter who our parents are and what they do, we all born with a moral compass that properly due. When you are 6, 7, or 8 years old, you know what feels right, what feels when when you were born into a cycle of a tail rampage. It doesn't have to be that way. And that truth nags it you is like a splinter in your jagged up mind. You can choose to ignore but the doll throbbing its roller days and night before to in the blood memory. Some moments to stick to out through and the and I'm thinking of right now still haunts me. That was the night my mom stepped in the bar because she was sweet and found my dad sweet talking about innocent junior on his shower was it and shrugged while my mother eyeballed him and slowed two shots of Johnny Walker to calm her nerves. He noticed her reaction and didn't like it one damn bit. She knew how things were. That Johnny in San Francisco across the border to France. A somber cottage belonging to the president of the Popular Pizza Bank, the world of his brother. He introduced Buffalo Bankers to his so anyway he needed a longer cleanup period and those low service came. I remember the young she was one she was seen before once she walked into the and the Scotland so but this is talking to the children. Yes, and when she went out together the owners on crazy. Around midnight, my mother drove with one of our security guards to make a back into Brazil. He begged her to leave my father. He told her to leave that very night. Maybe he knew what was coming. She did too, but she couldn't run because she had no independent means whatsoever, and she wasn't going to leave us in hands. Plus, she had no rights to community property because Tronis had always refused to marry her, which was a riddle. She was the only then starting to solve. My mother came from a solid middle class family and had always been a virtuous child. He resented that threatened his was better than the mother of his son. And he had a trap. I don't know. She was 100% dependent and she wanted to leave. She would have to work with nothing at all. My brother and never sleep oil at school and the ceiling suit too much with the office to tell you with Nancy Clue. My mother with the night I was already at work. Wake. She smiled, but I noticed the tears in her eyes. I remember smiling the scars of her parents' sister. She scooped me in her arms, turned the day she could. My father trailed. I'm reading a biography. Slowly and anyway, he pulled a pistol from beneath the cushion where I slept as he flashed it at me. It's me, and it smiled before concealing it beneath his band leg in the ankle was. On the other hand, there were two brown papers of best nearly 10,000 in cash, so far the typical night. My parent didn't speak on the drive home. Through the then simmers, my mom pooped into the driveway on the Paradise Road just before 6 a.m. A little early by our standards. Tronnis stumbled from the car, disabled the alarm, dropped the gas on the table, and went upstairs. We followed him. She tucked us both in our bed, kissed me on the forehead, and turned out the light before sleeping into master shoot where she was waiting. Stroking his leather, but Tronnis should be glad. Public display like microphone textures just to he said kind. Then he started swimming in a bubble for some time around the pot by accident. That night, she threw a marble and it. He ducked and he threw the whole she ran in the bathroom and covered the door. He kicked the door down. She was barely conscious when he grabbed a fish from the and her. For the month I had the bird and only was him drag all the way down his first floor, then crouched over her with a bell in his hand. She was bleeding from the temple and the leaf, and the sight of her brother fuses me. In the moment my hatred overcame my fear, I ran down the from his bed, slammed a tiny fish into bed, scared his ass, caught him up and fell into me, and to hit my head, he tossed me into the ground. He stalked towards me, barely hand, then turned towards me. You were reaching monster, he said after smiling. I crawled into a ball when he started swinging his belly. I could feel bruises, stains on my back. My mom cried. Towards the controller badminton. She faced the panic button and the house exploded in alarm. He froze, looking towards the ceiling, moved his with his sleeve to absorb the low and buckled his belt. It was on the table. The police were on the way and he knew it. My mother's sleep was short-lived. When the cop returned, they went to they looked over his shoulder. It was my mom who stood several paces behind him, her face full and cracked up, tired, blood, but there's a different age. They were met to back then, they said it didn't happen. And they don't know. Tom told them it was a whole of nothing. Just some necessary domestic discipline. Look at this house. Does it look like an mystery, mama? He asked. I keep some in course simultaneous. I was my ass to give her a breath. She throws a marble conjure as she spoiled. The, the police chuckled along with my father as he walked them to the car. They lived without intervening her. He didn't hit her again that morning. He didn't act with the psychology damage was done. From the point it was clear that his cronies and his law would concern age, it was open season and we hunted over the next years. Australia didn't change much and the beating continued while my mother tried to paper over the darkness. Was the sources of light she knew I wanted to be escorted, so she sent me for the local troop. I still remember putting on that navy blue cop escort button down one Saturday. I felt proud wearing a uniform and knowing at least for a few hours I could pretend that I was an armored kid. My mom smiled as we headed for the door. I pride Her smile wasn't just because it's of the damn cop scouts. They rose from a deeper place. We were taking action to find something positive for ourselves in a bleak situation. It was proof that we mattered and that we weren't completely powerless. That's when my father came home from Perli- Permilon. Where are you two going? He glared at me. I stared at the floor. My mother cleared her throat. I was taking David to his first Club Scout meeting, he said. The hell you are? I looked up and he laughed as my eyes fell over there. We were going to the track. Track one. Within the hours, we will arrive at Batten Downs. It's old school harness or such track. The type where two rides, jockeys right behind the horses in the lightweight watches. My dad grabbed a racing form as soon as he stepped through the gate. For the first hour, the three of us watched him place bit after bit, change, smoke, train scores, and race fully as every pony he were finished out of the money. With my dad rising with the gambling gods and acting as a fool, I tried to it, myself as smart as possible whenever people walked by. But I still stuck out. I was the only kid in the stands, just like Club Scout. I was probably the only black Cub Scouts they would ever seen. My uniform was a lie. I was a pretender. Tony's lost thousands of dollars that he wouldn't sort of his track home. His throat dropped from nicotine. My brother and I campered back seat. I whenever he spread out the window, his film boomers into my face. His stubbornness saliva on my skin more like venom. I intensified my hate. I hate long since learned that the best way to avoid a beat down was to make myself invisible as possible about my eyes, not outside my body, and hope to go unnoticed. It was practice we all earned over the years, but I was done. That was no longer hide from the devil. Then after each he paid onto the highway and headed home. He continued to rip, and I managed to dodge him from the back. Have you ever the phrase faith over fear? For me, it was hate over fear. He caught my eye in the rear mirror. You got something to say? We shouldn't have gone to the track anyway. So my brother turned and stared at me like I have lost my damn mind. My mother screamed. Say that one more time. His words came slow, dripping with dread. I couldn't say a word, so he started reaching behind, trying to smack me. But I was smart. It was easy to hide. The car waved left and right. It was half turned into my direction, punching in air. He barely touched me, which only struck his fire. We drove in silence until he caught his breath. When you get home, you're gonna take a clothes off, he said. That's what he would say when he was ready to rescue a serious beatdown. There was no waiting. I did what I was told. I went to my bedroom to clothes, walked down the hall to the room, closed the door behind me, turned off the light, and laid across the corner of the bed with my leg dangling. My torso stretched out in front of me and my axe exposed. That was the protocol he designed for maximum sacrifice and physical pain. The beating were often brutal, but the anticipation was the worst part. I couldn't see the door behind me, and he would take his time, letting my dream build. When I walked him out the door, my panic spread. Even the room was so dark, I couldn't see much as I felt very busy. I couldn't prepare for the process underneath with my skin. It was never just two or three clicking. There's no particular count, so we never knew when it was going to stop. This beating lasted minutes upon minutes. He stared at my butt, but the sting was so bad I looked it everywhere from him. So he moved and started whipping my thighs. When I dropped my hand to my thighs, he saw my lower back. He rebuilt me dozen of times, so was breathless, coughing and sleep with sweat. By the time it was over, I was breathing a bit more, but I wasn't crying. His devil, his devil was true, real, and my head gave me courage. I just stood and looked in the table. I limped to my room. I stood in front of the mirror. I was covered in oils from my neck to the crease of the nails. I didn't go to school for several days. When you were getting with my gently, Bobby Vaporous, you still misses you. But a drama of class in unconscious voice. After countless beatings, she endured and witnessed that particular battle in a constant walk. A cell of a woman. I remember from previous people, she was distracted and back in most of the time. Actually, when he was called on me, the zero of life, she was his slave. Didn't know until later she was considering suicide. Went out on each other. She usually started the game, but he was forever clueless. Whenever I would fall, I would get my head me up and his article, yelling like a muscle warrior on top of the loss. His face was not at him, his sour back. I didn't know him that I could take note and then. But when it was time for a sleep, there was no our parents of fight and destroy it. I went to bed nearly every night. My mother's every day was a lesson in survival. She was told she was worthless. Often she started to believe it. Everything she did was an effort to appease him, so he wouldn't beat his harsh sounds or move his eyes. But there was invisible trip was in him. Something she never knew when or how. She set them off until she slapped the seat of the the time she knew she did herself for a vicious beatdown. One day I came home early from school with the nasty headache. I laid on my side of the bed, my leg with extra pain. With each stroke, my hip spiked. I knew I wouldn't because my blood represented we don't have it. Yeah, started going to bed on it. Our health didn't meet that standard, and my body now I don't know what Eric is like now, but back then there was only one designer in the town, a holiday inn, not far from the Walmart dealership. My brother and I followed this. We stayed with my grandparents for the next 6 months. I enrolled in the second grade for the first second local Catholic school called Onansi. Onanciation. What? It. I was only 8 years old in second grade, but none of the other children. I was drifting a year, and there was no doubt that I need. I could barely read, but I was lucky enough to have Sister Catherine as my teacher. So PD Sister Catherine was 60 years old and had on gold front tooth. She was known, but didn't wear habits. She was also grumpy as hell, taking no shit. But I bro, David looks like since second grade. Can you believe? Annunciation was a small school. Sister Catherine taught all of first and second grade in single classroom and with only 8 kids to teach. She wasn't willing to shrink her responsibility and blame my academic struggle or anybody bad. We were learning similar emotional problems. She didn't know my backstory and didn't have to. All that mattered to her was that I turned up in a door with the kindergarten education. And it was her job to set my mind. She had every excuse in the world to farm or me or some spirit or level me a problem, but that wasn't her style. She started teaching people leveling kids. It was a normal thing to do. And she embodied there was no excuse mentality that if I needed if I was going to catch up. Sister Catherine is the reason why I will never trust a smile. Smile is just a scroll. My dad smiles a hell of a lot and didn't give two about this. But my girl sister Catherine cared about was scared about me. She wanted us to be our very best. I know this because she provided basement extra time with me. As much it took until I retained my lessons. People think here was what I could read as a second grade level. Tony's junior had an adjusted nearly as well. Within a few months, he was back in Buffalo, studying my father and working the skate land level there. By then, we moved to Paris, our own residential to bedroom apartment, Lamplight Manor, a public housing block that cost US $7 a month. My father, who earned 1,000, definitely spent 20 weeks on child support. The problem life was is we lived in a rural town with a population of about 3,000 and then a mass transit system needed the cat so I could go to school as she could get to work and taking night classes. She was independent changing her life circumstance from work around to the addictive and child program. She arranged to for our check to come to my grandmother's side to put in military the 120 really go. Every bit recall when it was so bro we drove home on gas tank and there was nearly a very past. Momless ground or change his medical for a letter to be the sense of honesty. He was molded by the Great Depression and he knew what it was like to be down and out. You never know when you might need it, he would say, when he lived in hell carrying thousands of dollars every night. The notion that we ever run out of money sounds serious, but my mother retained her childhood habit. Johnny, she used her with her for a no, but now it was time to save for money could take us. We don't that changed our living full and rebuilt with the kids and by groceries. We am had by burgers. Hard reason though. These were dark times, but we were managing well. My mother missed terrible, but she was pleased. I was the same, making friends. I had a good school from my first night in Indian. I had an with the once it's as but my demons were gone. They were tormented. As they came back, they hit hard. Third was a shock to my system, not just because we had to learn courtship. What 45 minutes? We have to learn gossip when I was in the Purung because the middle was nothing like a sister Catherine. Our class was still small. We had 20 kids total, split between third and fourth grade, but she didn't handle it nearly. It was interesting taking extra time to go. My trouble started when the standardized date we took during the first whole week. Mine came back a miss. I was with another kid. I had trouble building on lessons from the previous day. Later on the very academic years, Sister Catherine considers similar sciences cues to dedicate more time than her weakest student. She admitted Mr. Dool looked for a way out within the first month of class. He told that I belonged to an independent school, one for special students. Mm. My trouble started when the students started to ambiguous. No, knows what special means. It means you are about to stigmatized for the rest of your damn life. It means that you are not normal. Threats alone was a trigger, and I developed a suffer of sort almost overnight. My thought was jammed upon sanity. It was the worst in school. Imagine being the only black in class and the entire school, and during the reading means of being the dumbest. I felt like I tried to show strong, but it was so bad. Another type of guide to try explain everything with science and facts. I bought that some predicts every toxicity does more damage than polyamine design of standard. It leads to the learning disability and social anxiety because only the doctor is limits language development and memory. It makes it difficult for even the most gifted student to recall what they have already learned. Looking at the long game, when kids like me group they face increased risk for clinical depression or disease, obesity, and cancer, not to mention smoking, alcoholism, and drug abuse. Those raised in abusive in household have increased probability of being arrested driven by 53%. The odds of committing a violent crime is an agent increased by 30%. I was a poster child of the minimum rescued. My mother was the only reason to think raising a thought. Together no more. It's clear. If any put me in student band, it was done stable. I would stay in a group therapy for long who didn't take Latin either. I remember period of expresses myself in front of us when I got on my these was a very sacred but as still a damaged kid. And while they are proven invention of the best way to teach me and manage kid who suffer from the toxic fad Mr. Didin. The central nearly explained the night is now in the toilet in the trends with the same management look everything not different way gonna figure out a lot. Figure out your own. She deduced that I need this repetition that I need to solve the same problem over a different way to learn and she knew that time. Especially Whale was a product which was trying to keep get down. You know, fell back in the corner. I knew that if I didn't show up improvement, I will eventually be saved out of the special backlog of good enough one solution. I started cheating, so studying was hard. I covered friends on scam and they were doing things I understood that I mean, when I cosplays and didn't mind still left. Taking the path season content I never launched because I will never catch up with I can get the saving case of the knowledge brother was that I was too doing the kind of prejudice I will soon face a new week of down when you are the only one and when they are being pushed for the margins of speeches bullied and mistreated by ignoring people. That's the way life is special back then. And by the time the reality kicked me the throat, my life had already been fully placed. Whenever I create up, I still got the same message. You want to fail. And here comes the main part. Challenges. Challenge one. What does it mean? What does this mean? My bad cats arrived early and stuck around a while, but everyone gets challenging life at some point. What's your bad hand? What kind of bullshit are you dealing with? Are you getting beaten, abused, bullied? Do you even ever feel insecure? Maybe your limiting factor is that you are growing up as so supported and compatible, never push yourself. Might be true. What are the current factors limiting of success? If someone is standing in your way to work at the what are the long hours you are off right now? Are you standing in your own way? Break out your journal. If you don't have them, buy one, start your own laptop or notes and write them all in minute in detail. Don't just plan this assignment as every piece of dotted laundry. If you will hard just remember you will full pain save absorb power because you are about to flip that shit. You use your story that this makes you really put one time thing. So if you are doing success sounds fun, but yeah, it won't be. But don't worry about that yet. We'll get over the fun now. Just take the inventory. Once you have your list, share with whoever you want for someone. It means logging into social media, posting a picture, writing, plan what you want and present subscriptions and engaging to you differ so if you use the hashtag ban and can otherwise acknowledge this is privately okay so like for the challenge one is there like what are the factors that is keeping you behind like it can be anything it can be like anything so yes like said that every piece of dirty laundry that's also a problem if you got hot if you hurt someone and pow flip that's it. Like I have to write I think I will write down there challenge one anything's fun I don't know what I'm about to write but let's see and then I also have to look at this oh shit Time went crazy. I think